Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to be exploring the Dorian mode by playing this laid-back minor key blues, and I'm going to be doing it fingerstyle. So I'm not using a pick this week, and that's just to play a little more expressive. You get a very different sound when you're playing without a pick. And we're going to break this lesson down over the course of 2 videos. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, get the tablature, get the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing everything. I've got it in multiple tempos. You can get all of those learning materials by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP318. Alright, so when I was coming up with the lesson material for this week's lesson, writing the jam track, writing the lead part that goes on top of the jam track, I wanted to create something that was easy to play, it was fun to play, and not super technical. Something that's really more about emotion and dynamics and that side of playing. And it's very easy when you're learning how to play an instrument to want to be flashy and stand out. It's even easy as a guitar instructor like myself writing material for YouTube. I want to stand out too. I want the song that I'm writing to really jump out so people subscribe and they follow me. But sometimes when there's a whole other way of looking at it, and that is to understate something. And to me, when you're playing something that's really laid back like this, the simplicity of it actually makes it stand out more, at least to my ear. So I've been listening to a lot of J.J. Cale, Dire Straits' first album, and I see this common thread between all of that, and that is simple chord structure, just basic chords, and these super memorable melody lines that are played on the guitar on top of them. And they're not technical. It's not like super complicated. That's not the stuff that draws you in. It's the emotional part of it. So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be playing with our finger this week, so no pick. So if you're a pick player, you can play this with a pick, but I would encourage you not to, because you get a different tone when you play finger, skin on string. Sounds a lot different than a piece of plastic on string. You have more dynamic control. You can pop strings and do things that you couldn't otherwise. So try playing without a pick. Most of what we're going to be using is our thumb and our index finger. That's where most of it comes from. I do use my middle finger on occasion if I'm trying to play like the first string in a little run, and I'll explain that as we get into it. But let's talk about the chords for this song. So this song is played in F sharp minor, and there's 4 chords in it. It's an F sharp minor, an A, and a B chord. F sharp minor, A, B. There's also an E chord. And those are the chords, basic chords. I love the challenge of taking basic chords and come up with something that's meaningful, soulful. You know, it's harder to do than you might think. So that's a good little challenge for you to do for yourself. So let's find some common ground here when it comes to the lead for this. So the first chord that we're going to be playing over is that F sharp minor. And I think about F sharp minor pentatonic scale. It's sort of home base for me when I'm playing something bluesy minor key like this. So it looks like this. That's your F sharp minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. And that's where we're going to start. Now we're going to switch into Dorian mode, and I'll explain what that means as we get into it here. But the very first lick happens right on the 1. So if you're counting it in, and I'll play along with the jam track here in a minute so you can get your timing down for this stuff. But 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's right in the middle of that minor pentatonic scale. So I'm starting on the 2nd fret, 4th string, sliding up to the 4th fret. I'm using my index finger there, and you can see that I'm kind of popping the string. Hear how it sounds a little different? If I had a pick with me, you'd think I would have one. I would demonstrate the difference, but it just gives you that real nice poppy sound. That's what I'm doing. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the next thing sounds like that. Let's go through that, and then I'll explain where these notes are coming from. So 4th fret, 4th string, using my thumb this time. And by the way, I'm going to be using my thumb on the 4th string, my index finger on the 3rd string, just for these notes here. So then we come to the 2nd fret, 3rd string. Now we're sliding down to the 1st fret on the 3rd string. I know that that's not in the minor pentatonic scale, but bear with me. Back to the 4th fret, 4th string, 2nd fret, 1st fret on the 4th string. So all together, that lick sounds like that. Super simple when you listen to it. It doesn't sound like much. When you contrast that, when you play that along with the jam track, you'll hear how cool that sounds. And by the way, I do have a slow version of that. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but I have a slower tempo version of that. Now, what are these extra notes that are not in the minor pentatonic scale? Those notes are in that Dorian mode that I was explaining, F sharp minor Dorian, or the Dorian scale. And I did a lesson on that. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time getting into the theory stuff because this could take forever, but I did cover this. I actually covered Dorian mode in EP178. So go to the Active Melody website, do a search for EP178. There's a bonus video that comes with that lesson, and I go into detail on modes and Dorian specifically. So you can check that out for more information. But here's an easier way to think about it. I'll give you that's the theory part, but here's how I think of it just visually. If I look at that minor pentatonic scale, I'm going to add 2 notes to it. There's one of the notes, and there's the other note. So you can see it's pretty easy to visualize. You're just adding those extra notes. And if I were to keep going, these notes are just octaves of the other 2 that we added. So that's what, when I played that, that's why those notes are working. They're in the F sharp minor Dorian. Dorian is a minor mode. All right, so let me play along with the jam track. I'll play along with the slow version of the jam track so that we can get the timing down for these first licks here. All right, so far pretty easy. Now the next thing that I play goes like this. This is all minor pentatonic scale. That's all this is. Pattern 1, minor pentatonic scale. That's where my head is. Now what I'm doing to start this is I'm sliding from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret, again, this time on the 5th string. And then I'm coming up here and doing a bar on the first 4 strings on the 2nd fret, but I'm playing strings 3 and 4 with these 2 fingers, like this. So you go, hit it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then I do a hammer on. So I keep that bar, but I hammer on to the 4th fret, 4th string. Play that twice. So all together. All right, now we're going to echo that by playing. Now this is an awesome minor key bluesy lick. I mean, don't let this stuff be something that's limited to just this jam track. And I say this a lot, I realize that, but this is really powerful. It's easy to play, it's easy to go to. So I'm just barring the first 3 strings in this case on the 2nd fret, and I'm playing strings 2 and 3 using these 2 fingers, and I'm doing a hammer on to the 4th fret, 3rd string. And you can see these notes, they're just right in the middle of minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. And that's how I play that. 1, 2, 3, and then ring finger goes down on the 4th fret, 4th string, and I hit that with my thumb. All right, so one other thing I'll throw in after we play that is this double bend thing. All I'm doing is I'm bending 2 strings. It's the 2nd and 3rd string on the 4th fret. I'm just using my ring finger for that. I'm just pulling it. You can see I'm pulling that, then releasing the tension. So I go ahead and pre-bend it first, then release the tension. Again, I'm using these 2 fingers with my right hand. Then down to strings 2 and 3 on the 2nd fret, and then the 4th fret, 4th string. Now that's another awesome lick. I use that quite a bit if I'm playing any type of blues. And I got that from Chuck Berry. There's that Hail Hail Rock and Roll documentary type concert that came out in the 80s. And there's a lot of footage of Chuck playing, and he would do that quite a bit. So let me back up now. I'll play along with the jam track, and we'll play up to that point. Here we go. Okay, so all of that was one phrase. Now the song is going to repeat, or the verse is going to repeat. And what I played there was I went up into pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale. So that's all I'm doing. This is a common theme you'll notice with a lot of the way that I play or the way that my brain works. I'll often start in pattern 1 just because that's sort of my home base, my mental home base. And then I'll go up into pattern 2, and sometimes I'll go into pattern 3 or 4. And I kind of work my way up, building to a crescendo of some kind, and then working my way back down. It's just a little format that I have. But it works pretty well. So we're going to go 2nd fret 3rd string, 4th fret 3rd string, 5th fret 3rd string, up to the 6th fret 3rd string. Now, pattern 2 looks like that. And we just walked up to this note. Now, some of you are going to say, what's this note here? Well, that's just a passing note, getting you from up into this point. You can also look at that as the blue note. That's the blue note in the blues scale. But I just think of it as a passing note. And that's how I played that. I picked those two, or plucked them rather, with my thumb. And then I slid from the 5th fret to the 6th fret. And then after that, I kept my middle finger there on the 6th fret 3rd string, but I put my index finger on the 5th fret 2nd string. So that's 3, 2, 3. Thumb, index, thumb, like this. Okay, now the next thing that happens is really cool. Check this out. Now that sounds very unconventional. And what's happening there is this thing that, well, let me show you how to play it first. So it's 6th fret 3rd string, back to the 5th fret 2nd string, then we're up to the 7th fret 2nd string, and then we're to the top of pattern 2, so that's the 5th fret 1st string, and then watch this. So from here, I'm going to trace this D chord shape. So remember your D chord down in first position. So visualize that here, which would make it the E chord. So it's 5th fret 1st string, 4th fret 1st string, 5th fret 2nd string, 4th fret 3rd string. And all of that is really tracing around the E chord. So why does that work? Well, if I'm playing an E major scale, but I start that scale on the 2nd step, which would be an F sharp, and I play the same scale but starting on the 2nd step, I'm actually playing an F sharp dorian. So that's where dorian comes from. It's the 2nd mode in the key of E. I know this gets into the weeds, and this is why I don't like to go there. The way that you want to think about this practically when you're playing, how can you actually use it without having to get into all of that, is to think about the key of the song. So in this case, we're playing an F sharp minor. Just go down 2 frets from whatever the key of the song is. So that's an E. You can play an E arpeggio. You can play the E major scale. Now, you can't play E minor stuff. You can't play an E minor pentatonic or E minor scales. But you can play any E major thing that you want along with F sharp minor, and it's going to work. Just trust me on this. So as a quiz, if the song was an A minor, you should be able to tell me now what you could also work in, which would be, in this case, would be a G. You just go down 2 frets, 1, 2, right? So try it out sometime. Take a minor key song and take the key of the song, just go down 2 frets and play the major scale of that, and you'll see that you're playing, in actual fact, you're playing in Dorian mode of that key. So that's what's going on there. So I like to just remember this. If I'm playing an F sharp minor, I can just touch on these E chord, the E chord or E arpeggio, and it works, and it's a really nice contrast to what's going on. It sounds much more melodic. All right, so backing up, we just learned, right? And then we learned, that's that E chord where we trace the E chord like the E arpeggio. Let me play that along with the jam track. It'll all start to make sense. So here we go from the beginning of that. Hear how that sounds? It works so nicely there. Now after that I went, look at that, it's more of the E chord, but it's actually F sharp Dorian. It's both. I know it's confusing, it depends on the chord underneath it. If I was playing an E chord and I played that, it's going to sound very major, but if I put the F sharp minor under it. So anyway, so after that, then I came down to the 1st fret, 3rd string, and I did a half bend. Again, this is why fingerstyle sounds so much better, because you can really pluck that. Half bend and release, 2nd fret, 4th string, 2nd fret, 5th string. Look at what I just played there. It's your E chord. I was just picturing the E chord, and I was literally just touching the notes in that chord. And then after that, went back to the same slide like we did at the intro. So after that, I came back to pattern 2 and played. So that's barring the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, playing with my middle finger and my index finger, but I'm plucking those 2, and I'm doing a hammer on to the 7th fret, 2nd string. And then I release the hammer on, play 5th fret. And then I come down and play strings 1 and 2 open. Those are in your E chord, right? And then I do a hammer onto the 2nd fret, 2nd string, but also playing the open 1 string. And then after that, I play those 2 notes, 2nd fret and the 4th fret. Do a hammer on from the 2nd to the 4th fret. This is on the 3rd string. Back to the 2nd fret, 2nd string. I realize that's a lot of information. I think I'll end part 1 right there. And then we'll go into we'll save the rest of it for the second video. But let me back up. I'll play through this one more time along with the jam track slowly. Now this is not the fast tempo jam track, but it's nice and slow, and I think it's good for learning this. So this last little phrase that we just learned, just to recap that, goes like this. Actually, when I played that, I might have played it that way, so I included the 2nd fret, 2nd string. I think that's how I did. You can do it either way. Alright, so let me back up and play along with the jam track, and that'll wrap up this part 1 video. Join us for part 2 where we go over the second half. There's a lot more information to learn, and hopefully you're getting a lot out of this. Remember, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, click the alert bell, that way you'll be notified when I put out new lessons, which I do every week. Alright, here we go.